I think the biggest problem for Sanguine there, not bad on the Kuzenbo in all honesty, if you're going to go with a lineup like that. Awkward situation then. So game 3 is about to begin. Winner of this obviously has to take on, we've still got 2 more sets to play today so far, but winner of this definitely has an advantage. Sanguine looking to win this one because they've got to face off against Very Nice to Me next. And, well, if they can win this, then they've only got to beat Very Nice to Me and go to LAN.
If they lose this, though, then Sanguine have a do-or-die situation on the line there where they have to then try to bring home the set against Very Nice to Me. And if I remember correctly, during the regular season or the online portion, they kind of struggled with Very Nice to Me.
Well, let's see if they can struggle more against Armada, or will they find the victory? It's going to be the Circa and the Erlang Shen bans from Sanguine, so more focus towards Cope. Really concerned about that. It will be Armada banning Geb and Athena. So Freya's available here. Chernobog's available. Chernobog.
But that leaves open the Freya, that leaves open the Baron. There's also Pele, there's Mercury.
Yeah.
There's a lot of top-tier picks on the table right now, and Armada, they'll make sure to strip away that Freya, which is to be expected. I think once you see the Chernobog go through, you kind of just try to go head-on clash damage for damage, but that Kuzenbo pick could be really crucial here because I think that could dissuade Sanguine from leaning towards a Mercury if that were the original intention.
It's a very good point. Kumbhakarna locked in response now. Kumba versus the Kuzenbo in the solo lane. Looks like there could be the matchup there. Sanguine going to go with the Ganesha again. That's interesting to me. They won with game 1 with that Ganesha and they want to go back to it again, but it's so early to draft that second Ganesha.
I think that's the problem though, is that in game 1, we saw the Ganesha and Kumbhakarna picks spread apart from first and second banning phase and then to the third and fourth banning phase. That's where we saw the difference of the Guardians. Yeah. Telegraphing this early on, Ganesh Kumbhakarna poses a new threat to Sanguine in that Armada already understand what the general game strategy is. It's just go for the Hoombots, and that's why we immediately see Hoombots getting banned away. That probably one of the better control assassins also to complement this Ganesh Kumbhakarna. Now I think that Sanguine, they might have honestly just gone a little bit ahead of themselves on this one.
Really like the Fafnir ban at the end there by Sanguine, just to make sure that even with the Freya and the Medusa, they're not going to get that steroid available from the Fafnir. And so Armada then need a support. Terra still available. We'll be like saying pretty much a standard one in that situation. Sanguine's draft though looking solid so far, but it's all about these last 2 picks.
Jing Wei. See, Jing Wei wasn't the direction I was hoping someone would head in. And my reasoning behind this is that Jing Wei just doesn't provide enough pressure early on. Sanguine just have such a lack of pressure in the early game in comparison to Armada. And when you have this double hunter into the Kuzenbo, into the Terra, arguably 2 of the better supports to help deal with those hunters, that I am very concerned right now for Sanguine looking at their Game 3 draft.
Well, you guys at home get to decide on who you think will win this one. I think this game, in a weird way, Sanguine losing lane pressure like you're talking about, it does open the window for the Kuang to maybe look at teams that are overextending in these lanes and find a couple of kills.
It's possible, but knowing Armada, they're probably just going to look to group up with each other. Maybe I'm talking 3 to 4 man rotations and just siege every single part of the jungle here from Sanguine. I wouldn't even be surprised if Armada looked for an invasion at the very first speed buff spawn. Okay then, well let's get over to the casters. It's game 3, 1 game to decide who wins this set. It's John Finch and Anatoly.
Thanks, Hindu. Thanks, Taco. Game 3 is underway. As Sanguine grabbed game 1, Armada bounced back in a big way in game 2. And now Sanguine trusting this victory to Yuji on an outquark.
Surprised not to see Sibyl like body block some of the minions and then go for their own buff. So I think they just want to straight up fight with sBennyQ playing the Freya. And so far, if history are to dictate themselves, the first pick has been successful in both games 1 and 2. And Sanguine with first pick in game 3 elected to go for the Chernobog as they stick it for Sheyka instead, but surprised not to see Mercury picked or banned this entire game.
It is a bit surprising as Kuang and Naja were the priorities. Purple buff will be stripped away by Armada, who were able to get the lane clear advantage and steal the buff, so a nice win for them over here in the dual lane as Sanguine desperately trying to grab some farm over the wall.
Huge experience per minute advantage now for Armada, for Armada to be able to make these plays happen, even disrupting some of the clear from Diesel with a nice stun out of Sibyl. Very efficient on this Terra thus far.
But I do want to talk a bit about Yuji. This is such a different mentality from 2 games in a row of Moonbots, right?
Yes.
He was very patient. He was very He was such an impact in the team fight and having the ultra that's set up for the team. This time, Yuji is pure assassin, trying to delete someone and remove him from the fight.
It's very rare to not be aggressive on the out Kuang to look for those counter engages, because you got to be finding the damage to get people in execute threshold. And speaking of damage, I think yunglad will definitely be bringing that kind of damage and relying on his Kumbhakarna the same way they did in game number 1. Wouldn't be a bad idea to get those executes more frequently up.
This is a big deal for yunglad to be on a god who can have a bit more impact with. The Pele certainly wasn't getting it done in game number 2, largely thanks to Cope's pressure over here in solo. We'll see if they'll look for something similar up against the Kumbhakarna, though he won't be quite as easy to kill as Diesel has to jump away from Armada's pressure yet again.
In the soul lane, it's the E-Honda versus Zangief matchup. Two of them just kind of slapping each other with their bodies. Not going to be able to do much with how resilient both of them are. It's going to come down to the jungle presence as Sibyl and sBennyQ going to get knocked up from Diesel.
I'm expecting we're going to see some more early aggression from Cope. I know that Taco was a little bit worried that Armada would be able to just freely walk into the jungle of Sanguine here all game long. And we saw it happen in duo. They lost a purple buff. But are we going to see that same aggression from Cope as this game continues on? I mean, the Naja can be very strong early. Kuang can sometimes be a bit invisible in the early game, whereas Naja is happy to flourish there. Certainly, the door is open for Cope to be the aggressor.
Yeah, but it's usually that's able to outpace Copebby by getting those right side mid camps first. Experience per minute. Very even between these two junglers. Stacking department favoring Cope by about 3. Make that 6 now as he gets the blue buff for himself, and it's just a race to see who gets the penetration first. Left side mid camps is the goal for the jungler Cope.
Try and make it over there. He has sops with him on the Medusa, so they should be able to rotate over to it. As this time Sheyka goes right to the red buff to make sure there are no shenanigans on their camps on this side of the map, and Armada will indeed fall back to their own camps, so Cope will be able to grab those mid-harpies no problem. But I think there certainly is pressure on Cope to make sure he is the one that's aggressing early on. Naja's still good late. Sure, it's always good to be able to win fire wheels, and he has great damage, but it's going to be so hard to outpace what an Kuang can do once he gets all those items online and has people in execute threshold.
I agree, but I think Armada already putting themselves in a decent spot, being up about 500 gold or so 15 seconds ago, just to be able to outfarm the map and being able to pressure the dual lane as hard as they have been. Bra has been consistently able to outclear yunglad in the soul lane, denying a lot of gold under the tower. The side lane pressure not favoring the likes of Sanguine.
Cope one more time, though, going to put pressure on the solo lane. Takes yunglad up there with the windfire wheels, brings him crashing right back down. Bra is there to pin him against the wall, and it should be an easy kill, though. While he's in Watery Grave, he can't add autos, but doesn't matter. Cope finds first blood for Armada.
That would be interesting if you could, though. Find some basic attacks between the Watery Grave. Yeah, I mean, why not? You're basically swinging your arms around anyway.
So, yeah.
Why aren't you basic attacking is the real question.
Yeah, it should be a bunch of auto attacks happening in succession. It should proc item effects that happen on basic attacks.
Everything Broad does with abilities is using his hands. Sumo Slam as well. Like, that should be added basic attacks. He's throwing a Nene,
which uses its hands.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. It all tracks, at least from where this commentator is sitting, as Armada finds first blood for Cope. And sort of just like we were expecting, right? That this Naja would be able to purchase a little bit sooner than Yuji. But are you surprised at all that he one more time went for yunglad on the Kumbhakarna?
A little bit, considering it is a Kumbhakarna, but that's not a bad idea if you can catch him with that low of a health pool. Kumbhakarna not having his physical defenses online quite yet, nor the magical side, so that was an easy opportunity. You want to gank a soul laner before the level 9 marker, before any sort of defense becomes a factor.
Yuji looking to try and secure the red buff, and he will be able to, but Benny and Sibyl are right there. They'll certainly be back again to try and keep that buff pressure going. So far, Armada have had their foot on the gas. And this is what, and I talked about it in game 2, right? This is when I like to see an F6, because Armada as a team recognized that it wasn't, it wasn't frustration. They weren't giving up. It was that the game had gotten away from them, and they were confident if their draft phase went correctly, they could win again, and they're doing it here.
Yeah, when Cope can make plays like this onto Yuji, followed up by Bra. Sumo Slam will force out the beat. Sheyka rotating as well. Yunglad knocking up Cope, rooting him in place. There's the follow-up.
Cope goes in aggressively and ends up paying for it. Sheyka is the one that finds the kill. The Nene came through, almost able to find yunglad, but not going to be able to track him down. So it will end up being just that one kill. But Sibyl and sops want to find a little more.
Ooh, I like that water illusion. Slippery dragon away from the slippery snake, and Mineral now rotating to cover that mid lane. sBennyQ without too much mana to continue the bully, the cyber bully as Taco will like to say, up against Diesel.
Nice stun comes out from sops onto Mineral, but the Ohm is even better. Now it's time for Yuji to find some damage, but the burst from sops is absurd. He turns things around. Now Mineral has to run for his life.
That's Earth and Fury in a nutshell. You're taking more damage, you're dealing less damage, so it really just kind of confuses you if you're not really used to it of how much damage you're about to deal.
And that's what Viper Shot, I think, can do well in conjunction with that, right? Because it does give her that extra attack speed as well on those shots. So she can get them off way faster, and that lets you proc those stones and really blow up someone like we just saw happen just now.
And even the Lacerate's damage is just so respectable. It has a decent amount of base damage for a dash, as it puts you out of position, so it better do a decent amount of damage at the end of the day.
Sops able to find a nice kill there, has that Transcendence finished, and 40 stacks already, so he's certainly in a good spot, whereas Sheyka went for boots first on his Chernobog, and then he'll finish up the Transcendence on the back end. So Sheyka mobility, sops damage.
And Sheyka made a great rotation with that Living Nightmare in the last fight, getting himself a kill onto Cope, shutting down that early Naja rotation that tried to make a play onto Yushi, did force out his beads, and also even found the kill.
We're saying we want to see a little bit more from Cope, and it looks like we will. He goes with the Jotun second to make sure he has those cooldowns up even more often. Jotun's good for that. And we'll certainly see a little bit more aggressive from him. I'm wondering where Yuji's going to be going with his build, because he definitely built damage, but he always had the Relic Dagger in there for utility too. So is he going to try and go that way again, or is he just all in on damage on this out Kuang as Yuji goes on a wild ride? Windfire Wheels brings him right back down, petrified not enough, and Yuji running for his life, but can't turn it around.
Can't do anything there, still had the execute. Sops in a little bit of trouble as well, uses the Lacerate aggressively. Third quick pick, Armada are just dominating.
But now yunglad has the mez, good beats from sops. Gets him away from the epic uppercut and avoids all that damage. Now Bruh here to be the bodyguard that they need. Diesel is able to jump, but Watery Grave looking for yunglad. They can't track him down, but as you said, Armada controlling the game.
Cope really needed to find that sash to confirm the kill onto yunglad. Look at the backhand side. Look what sBennyQ is looking for the pot shots onto Diesel before the airstrike.
So much damage coming out from this Freya. Valkyrie's discretion will not find the double kill, though Sheyka does find a nice root, going in aggressively as Sibyl to set up for yunglad in the passive, and one more kill for Freya, finds it eventually.
Oh, Yuji not able to find the hitbox necessary. I believe Cope was the one in range of the execute. Still had the beats available though to get away from that one.
That's a good job kind of body blocking to make it harder for him to find the target, but sops still aggressive. Lacerate allows him to get even closer. Mineral and Sheyka finally fall back, but a prolonged engagement that heavily favors Armada in the middle lane.
I think that was like a 4 for nothing at the end of the day. Armada are really bringing in the pain. Sanguine are the ones that dominated game number 1, forcing a 20.5-minute surrender. But if anything, if you were not to see that game 1, you would think like Armada were clearly the superior team.
And they just have too much damage here early. A large part of it is coming from that Earth and Fury, but sops has been an absolute nightmare. Transcendence is already finished stacking for him, so it is an absurd amount of damage coming from this Medusa this early on. Cope has done well finding Yuji in multiple fights also, and that's also limited the impact that Sanguine get from their jungle.
Cope's just not afraid to go in, and as a Naja player, you got to respect that, because once you're in with a sash, you are in for the long haul, especially with the Windfire Wheels at 10 minutes into the game. Armada starting up the gold.
And why not? I mean, no one from Sanguine's anywhere nearby, and Armada have clearly proven they win all the fights when they do happen. A nice gold Fury going to come through for Armada, about 4,000, almost 5,000 gold out in front, 4,500 and 5,600 experience.
This is getting really dicey already from Sanguine. This is not the way you want to start off your game 3, turning the best of 3 set into a best of 1 to come up with this kind of a deficit. Now, to be fair to Sanguine, they do have good late-game prowess with Yuji on the out Kuang, Sheyka on the Chernobog. Yunglad has great control on the Kumbhakarna. So if they could just maintain this 4,500 gold deficit, not allowing the second gold Fury to be secured from Armada, I think that Sanguine are still in it.
That would certainly help, but it's a harder task to achieve when you consider these experience deficits. Cope about 3 levels up, as is Benny over Diesel. And those in particular have been the big impact makers. Benny rotated on the back end of the tier 1 tower fight, found big damage, and Cope has been on the front lines.
Look at this. SmiteVOD with this kind of a 3-level lead opts to go for the Blink to be even more aggressive for the rest of his teammates. A Blink Freya. I've seen a lot of Blink characters.
That's
Can't say that I've seen a Blink Freya.
That's
Even when Freya used to be in the jungle.
Yeah, Benny definitely confident right now in his lead. He's right. He's very far out in front, so this is definitely a win more move as he can't stop Diesel from getting the purple buff. And it looks like Sheyka defense is red. But we got to see some big plays from Benny to make it worth it as he chunks Diesel underneath the tower. Easy kill.
Solo kill right then and there. 30 seconds left for Diesel to respawn. Tier 1 tower going to crumble. No one even close from Sanguine to play defense. Pyromancer going to be looked at here. Living Nightmare going to be used on the left-hand side, trying to find the return kill.
Now this is where Benny might be wishing he had another relic as he gets punished a little bit. I think even with something like Aegis, though, he dies there.
He still dies.
As Armada now pull the Pyromancer, they grab that one for themselves. Bruh gets a nice Nene out, but the objective's already done.
That was cute. The fact that Bruh used the Nene. It was going to hit Yuji. Water Illusion prevents the damage, but hey, that wall bouncing in a triple formation still finds the hit. And yeah, if you're going to lose a member on the left-hand side, you better get an objective on the opposite side. So getting 1,000 gold between the Pyromancer and the Tier 1 tower, only trading out 1 for 1, is a good spot for Armada to extend the lead.
Sops, no problem with telegraphing where he's at and able to dash away from Yuji without any trouble. But this is a nice grouping from Sanguine. They should be able to grab this Tier 1 tower. Sibyl comes back with Earth and Fury. Petrify hits, but not for the stun. Cope now finds someone up in the air on the backside of the fight. Brings one right back in for the knockup damage. And Sops takes down Yuji.
And Yuji just a little bit too far forward. Couldn't retreat. Yunglad in a whole world of hurt. He's going to get whooped and scooped. Sheyka going to get saved by Mineral for the time being.
But ends up falling Yunglad as well. 3 for 0 for Armada. Yes, they lose the Tier 1 tower, but definitely not worth it, especially when Armada are about to answer back with a Tier 1 of their own.
And they might even go for a Tier 2 if they want to, considering it's only Sheyka and Diesel, 2 hunters that are very squishy at the end of the day. Speed buff going to get stripped away from SmiteVOD. Keep in mind, he still has the blink.
So yeah, he needs a little bit of extra movement speed because he's not as safe. Sheyka walking into a world of hurt. I don't think he recognized that there was going to be a Freya in his jungle. Look for the Valkyrie's discretion. He hit all but the very last tick. That's great damage.
I don't know if that would have killed him at the very last hit, but still zones away both Sheyka and Yuji from playing defense on that Tier 2 tower. So yes, Sanguine get the Tier 1 in the mid, but they lose 2 towers of their own.
SmiteVOD's able to make it out of there, uses the blink defensively. Bruh will now have to be the target. Watery Grave perfect for the CC immunity. They do land the slow. The Mez there to lock him down. He has no mana as well, so Bruh will pay for it with his life.
Oh, really unfortunate that Yuji didn't have his ultimate available. He needs these executes to start building up that Kuang passive stacks. More magical power and lifesteal is the only way Yuji's going to get back in the game.
0-3 and 2 for the Kuang. 4 levels behind Cope on the Naja. Sibyl and SmiteVOD are here, but not in time to defend the Tier 1. They won't let Sanguine find more than that.
No, definitely not. But, man, this lead is getting really, really high. 7,000 gold at 14 minutes. You're looking at 500 gold per minute lead.
Blue buff going to go down for Sanguine. But, yeah, this game has truly gotten away from Sanguine in a hurry. And the more I see Armada play in games 2 and 3, the more impressed I am with that decision to kind of give away that game 1, to just throw that one in the trash and try and forget about it, because it really, truly has worked out for him.
And you got to be worried if you're very nice to me after this kind of performance.
Oh, yeah.
Armada are coming in hot in that set.
Armada are definitely not someone that you want to go up against right now, as Benny is on the prowl. He had to use Blink defensively, so he doesn't have it. But they should have the lockdown of the Diesel with Cope there as well. Instead, we'll take a look at Sibyl, who's in some trouble on the right-hand side. Now we're back over to Diesel. Airstrike, allow him to reposition. He will be back underneath the Tier 1. But Benny, with the Valkyrie's discretion, is going to hunt him down.
Has the movement speed with the speed buff. Sure, why not? Find the kill. Get yourselves a Tier 2 tower while you're at it. But instead, switching their attention to the Gold Fury Sibyl. Trying to buy as much time as possible, but Yuji missed timing his ultimate, not getting the stack on his passive.
Yeah, you can't have that at all. Unfortunate is they're not able to find that kill there. Instead, Gold Fury is going to go down for Armada. They're happy to trade the life of Sibyl for this Tier 2 tower, a couple kills, and the Gold Fury.
Oh yeah, this Tier 2 tower is really going to put Armada over the top, as if they weren't ahead enough. Let's add a 5-digit marker to that count.
I like the idea here. They do force the beads out from sBennyQ. Finds the banish to knock up Mineral. sBennyQ now gonna get away, but actually dashes into the pillar.
That's cute.
Yeah, to try and reposition. But sBennyQ doesn't have any cooldowns to be able to get out of this one. Just gonna juke for his life, but will eventually end up falling.
I don't mind that play, considering that 1,500 gold is definitely worth it. sBennyQ dead for 45 seconds. Allows Sanguine to maybe go for a tier 1 tower on the left-hand side. Cope thinking about making this rotation and trying to pick off maybe Diesel, but Beads and Aegis available for the Jing.
Definitely going to have Cope rotate because 2 members are in right grabbing the tier 1 here. Yunglad gets interrupted before the Mez comes out, and Watery Grave won't let him fire it. Petrify for the CC immunity, a good epic uppercut. But now Brush will be trying to return the favor, just barely gets away.
Oh, that Nene really wanted it. The acid spray was not in range to find the last hit. Sops and Bra answer in kind with a tier 1 tower of their own on the right-hand side. And this is why Kumbhakarna is just so good in the soul lane. It's so difficult to lock him down with the amount of control you have once you get some cooldown reduction, and he's only sitting at 20%. He's about to finish off Breastplate to cap himself away.
Then things are going to start to be really troublesome, but really not, though, when you consider how far behind the damage dealers are. Sheyka is still very relevant with sops. He's not too far behind in that department, but everywhere else, Armada's lead is definitely going to be felt.
Sheyka definitely having a good game for himself, sitting at 5-1-0. Literally 100% of his team's kills getting the last hits, as a mid player should be doing, trying to put himself in the best possible position, which is allowing him to stay relevant in correlation to Sops' Medusa. But when every other lane is struggling 4 levels behind for Yuji that's on the Kuang, and Kuang that's behind is not the place to be.
Not at all. And we mentioned the 5-1-0. It's actually kind of a bummer. At least 2 of those should be Yuji's to try to make sure he's getting that passive and not able to find it. Mineral gets forced out, has to use Dharmic Pillars, and Armada, with all the ultimates except for Sops, is returned back to try and confirm the FG.
A little frisky play. Copebby thinking about trying to back because left-hand side is a base race. Sanguine looking for the Phoenix after getting the tier 2 tower. Very frisky call. Armada do get the Fire Giant, but at what cost?
Bra's already back to try and defend the left side. Phoenix and Yunglad will pay for his transgressions here at the Fire Giant with his life effect sprint. Comes out, sBennyQ blinking aggressively to try and chase down Mineral. He still has the dash. Banish won't land, so they defend the Phoenix in left, grab the FG, and get the kill on Yunglad.
A perfect situation, covering all options. Not losing anyone from the Fire Giant buff, not losing Phoenixes to allow Fire Minions to deal with, to delay your push at the end of the day, and not losing the Fire Giant, so now you have 20% extra structure damage to go on these Phoenixes. Only 1 remaining tier 2 tower on the right side stands for Sanguine.
4 members pushing down near this middle lane. They've got Cope doing the janitorial work of pushing those waves up on the left-hand side. Someone's got to get it done, and that falls to Cope this time. The rest of the team will come to the right side, where the only tier 2 tower still remains. Sanguine now forced to play defense, and they do have Sheyka instead of additional mains in that middle lane. How strong is their defense actually?
Left-hand side, though. Blink out of Yuji, realizing Cope is way out of position, forced to use that defensive ultimate. Gets a lot of movement speed, even has a blink of his own to get away, and Armada are going to get this right side Phoenix uncontested because they're still busy trying to kill Cope.
Well, Cope has come back in to stop them from getting their backs off in time on purpose. Armada grab the Phoenix on the right-hand side, Yunglad being controlled by the Naja, and now Armada, with a heavy numbers advantage, are going to move in for the mid-Phoenix. Dharmic Pillars come out, Earth and Fury from Sibyl hits nearly everyone. Sheyka already half HP. Diesel has to run on the backside from Bra. Airstrike gets him out, but sBennyQ takes down Mineral.
One clean pick. Keep in mind, left-hand side, Yunglad still getting zoned away. Yuji surviving. sBennyQ missing about 2 to 3 basic attacks, but Armada confirmed both Phoenixes. And guess what? Cope was still chasing Yunglad the whole entire time, and your base is no longer safe.
Serves him up on a platter. Cope finds that kill. Yuji gonna try and trade out with Benny. Will finally find the execute and bring down sBennyQ. But the rest of Armada gonna threaten the Phoenix on the left-hand side. They still have Sops for plenty of damage on the structure, and Sanguine's base is broken wide open.
The sacrificial lamb getting all 3 Phoenixes. Yuji gonna take the ultimate spill as well. And with these 2 members dead as Mineral revives, it's a 4-on-3. Can Armada end?
They're gonna go for it. They've got minions pouring in from every conceivable direction. Only 3 members from Sanguine are currently alive. Titan, though, is healing back up, and I think Armada might not be able to do it.
I was going to say, if Armada could have ended right then, right there, that would have been a lot of poetic justice, because it would have matched the exact timing almost of when they surrendered game number 1.
Instead, though, they'll fall back, grab the speed buff, but you got to feel good about this one if you're Armada. Now, 13,000 gold out in front, all 3 Phoenixes down. An overcommit from Sanguine, I would say, onto Cope on the left-hand side, and by the time they realize their error, he turns around and starts preventing backs.
I think this late-game Freya damage has just been absurd, and honestly, Sheyka on the Chernobog has had a remarkable performance as well, but Yuji on the Kuang, that could have been a Mercury, not picked or banned by either squad.
Sure.
Needs to match the late-game damage of this Naja Freya.
Well, I mean, but that's the thing. Kuang certainly can. He just has not this game. He's been heavily bullied.
A Mercury can still do things from behind, whereas an Kuang, not so much. And that's why Kuang is not so popular any longer among a lot of these high-tier SPL caliber junglers. Because when you pick a god in Smite competitively, you want to make sure that if for whatever reason you do fall behind, that you could still make certain plays.
They're kind of split up here a little bit, our Armada, but they found a target thanks to Cope as he goes in aggressively. He has to fall back now as Dharmic Pillars ticks him twice. Sops finds a huge Petrify, hitting 3 members and turning them all to stone. Sheyka has to run for his life. Armada now swarming into the Titan room. Cope finds one more as he takes down a Minerals. Benny takes down Diesel. They want to get a full-on deicide as the Titan comes down to half HP. Armada gonna close out the set here over Sanguine.
Despite surrendering game number 1, Armada come back in games 2 and 3. 22.5 minutes worth of play, 20-6. Armada looking unstoppable.
Yeah, and I don't have a problem with that laughter there, Sibyl. You certainly earned it with that Terra performance. And again, I mean, I've said it in game 2, I said it here again in game 3. Sometimes the games really do just get away from you early on. Throw them away. You know your team's better than that. You know your game plans are better than that. And that's what we saw on display here from Armada. They looked clearly better in games 2 and 3, like a vast difference.
I think Cope was just too confident, and I think that the rest of Sanguine couldn't handle that kind of confidence, making the plays onto yunglad. Couldn't really get away from the action. Playing Kumbhakarna is the same way he was in game number 1, but this time he didn't get that same kind of start that he got in the first one.
That's right. They were able to minimize the impact from Yuji in games 2 and 3. Even though he looked good in game 2, he definitely wasn't doing as much as he'd like. In game 3, doing virtually nothing. Yunglad also very much minimalized in games 2 and 3. I mean, a great play from Armada all around.
And I'm excited to see how Armada transitions this into the later portion where they face off against Very Nice to Me.
If they win that one, they're in. It's just that simple. We'll certainly get a chance to see that action later on. But let's get it back over to the desk for their thoughts about this game and the next set.
Thank you so much, guys. Yeah, very interesting set between the two. Armada got off to a very slow start here in game 1, but by game 3, they started to find the pace that a lot of people have been talking about. They have a chance to win.
It went from a questionable surrender vote to a very reasonable, or at least it was obvious that Armada had something else up their sleeve, and that came out in games 2 and 3 respectively. I think that this game 3 draft just kind of did its own thing. It's a little bit self-explanatory, but the easiest breakdown is the fact that they just had too much control for Sanguine to really allow their hyper carry to come online.
Yeah, you mentioned that yourself. Join the picks and bans pressure is definitely an issue that Sanguine had there. So unfortunate for Sanguine, but big congratulations to Armada for winning this first one here. Sops did a very good time of things there, but Cope will be your MVP for that game. The Naja came up big with some nice early satchels.
I think that was another difference too. Games 2 and 3, there was a lot more focus given towards this solo lane than in game 1. Game 1, it was mostly just Bruh being heavily controlled by yunglad and by yujibox over there, but then Cope started giving a little bit more attention and love towards the solo lane, and it really allowed Bruh to have this Kuzenbo reign of terror over Sanguine, and alongside of the Naja, it was just way too easy for those two, for the Kuzenbo and the Naja, to set up everybody else on Armada.
Well, we're not on match or day point now anyway, because set 2 is going to be Sanguine up against Very Nice to Me. Even though Armada won that last one, they're going to have to wait a little bit longer to face off against Very Nice to Me a little bit later on, see how that one goes.